When Black folks fight for justice in this country, Blacks were at the center of the labor movement. They were at the center of the suffrage movement. They were at the center of the civil rights movement. Whenever Blacks are in the fight for justice in this country, it expands hope and opportunity for all Americans. But whenever you see a bill like this happening, know that the reverse of that is going to happen. It's going to hurt all Americans, but it's going to have a disproportionate impact on African Americans. And the best example I can give to this is all the strides we made. Thank you, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. All the strides we made on the maternal mortality problem in America by expanding Medicaid. One of the principal ways we did that was expanding Medicaid access for postpartum women. It disproportionately helped Black women. For one of the most dangerous things you can do in America is to be a Black woman giving birth. But now those gains are going to be undermined by what they're doing. So this disproportionately hurts our community, and we all, no matter what Donald Trump wants to say about Black people, he is coming after our communities, and this is another example of a way he's disproportionately going to impact African Americans.
Thank you so much, Senator Booker. I want to just flag one thing that you said that's so important, and we've wrestled with this all day. We didn't want to give our folks false hope. We wanted to tell them that this bill would likely pass, but we also wanted to ensure our people know we've got them. It's something that we spread all throughout the Power Tour. Dr. David Johns, who I know you know, worked on our Black Papers Policy Initiative. We have 33 papers that is our version of our own Project 2025. So the fight doesn't end here, it's just starting. What do you tell the folks at home who are feeling helpless, who maybe don't even know that like Medicaid for them is called something else? In Washington State, where I'm from, it's called AppleCare. So what do you tell those folks that don't even know the fight is on their front stoop? They have no idea that this battle is coming right to their front door.
I mean, it is going to come after everyone. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I know from my state, it's going to cost thousands and thousands of good jobs, from the healthcare industry to the Clean Energy Committee. It's going to come after the premium payments the average American pays is going to go up. Energy costs in my state are going to go up 20 to 30%. This bill is coming at us. And you're right. Please always be brutally honest with people and say, yeah, we are in a situation where more likely than not, this is going to clear the Senate. And my heart will be shattered, and so should yours. But real hope is not shiny and new. Real hope is scarred, wounded, and despite the fact that it faces defeat, it still gets up the next day and is not defeated. That's how we're going to have to roll right now. And so I've been leaning on it a lot. I've literally written in the two things I've written, which is the last page of James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time, where he gives a brutal, wrenching description of the state of race in America. And then he ends by saying, asking more from everybody. And he goes, I know what I'm asking you is impossible, but in today's day and age, the impossible is the least we can demand. And everyone is emboldened by the spectacle of human history in general and Negro history in particular, because it testifies to nothing less than the perpetual achievement of the impossible. We are living examples of impossible dreams come true despite impossible odds. So please don't give up. Please stay in the fight. If we face defeat tonight, we're not defeated. Let's bring the fight to the House and keep on going.
Thank you so much, Senator Booker. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, we've got some really strong marching orders. We know that the order is tall, right? We know that we are calling on miracles. And to that end, I see Brittany Packnett Cunningham sitting there with my nephew, one of my nephews. And so, Britt, I want to come to you. I call you Bishop for a reason. This is a time where we got to watch and pray. We got to, work and have faith. We got to definitely take a big leap. And we're asking our folks to not bank on the system necessarily, but to bank on themselves, to bet on the fact that they can make change happen when they lean in. What are some of the things that we can hope for, sis?
You know what? I want to answer that, but I know that our brilliant brother who was in charge of these Black papers, Dr. David J. Johns, has to leave in a few minutes. So do you mind if I pinch it to him?
I love you, Sibling. I canceled my staff meeting so that I can be here for the hour. So go forward and I'll jump.
It's state of the people time. Okay, hey. Respect. So listen, I so appreciate that question. And, when we were talking about me being on at 6 o'clock, I said, listen, it's the toddler's bedtime, but the baby will be with me because the baby needs to stay woke too. All of us have to. In this moment, it is incumbent upon us to recognize that keeping us downtrodden, keeping us exhausted, keeping us defeated is the strategy. They want us to be doom scrolling all day. They want us to be looking at what's on the floor of the Senate. They want us to be looking at what the White House is doing. They want us to be looking at these billionaires fighting back and forth with each other on Twitter, and to either be so distraught and have so much despair that we think we can't do anything to protect ourselves, or so distracted that we're not paying attention to what's really going on. So all of that stuff, the wedding in Italy, the fighting that Trump and Elon were doing on Twitter, like there were some reality TV stars, even though which Trump is, all of that stuff was a distraction, right? All of that stuff was there to make us not pay attention to how they are coming to try to rob us, right? The word says that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And that's exactly what they are doing right now. They're doing it with these deportations. They're trying to do it with this bill. When we're talking about cutting off Medicaid, when we're talking about making people starve because they don't have access to food, because they don't have SNAP, that means that every single constituent that's being affected by this could end up with a toe tag, right? That's just how serious this thing is. They don't care if people are broke. They don't care if people are sick. They don't care if people die. They see us all as acceptable losses, and we have to make sure that they're clear that we do not accept that. So now is the time that we remember power is ours innately from our Creator. It's not gifted to us by these members of Congress. We don't have to be elected or have a title to have it. It's ours when we pick up that phone. It's ours when we hit the streets. It's ours when we make our voices heard. It's ours when we send that text or that email to get people going and help them remember that we deserve to be fully represented and supported and taken care of by our government and by one another. These are the kinds of things that are going to continue to happen in Congress. So we have to stay alert. We have to stay woke. We have to make sure that we are tapping into one another and making sure that when you don't have the energy for the fight, that you go and tag in 3 other people so that they can take your spot while you get your rest and you can come back in fighting and swinging. I'll close with this, Angela. The word says, "Be not weary in well doing," right? Because at a certain point, when we continue this fight, we will reap what we sow. We are trying to sow in joy. We are trying to sow in goodness. We are trying to sow in community. We're trying to sow in health. We're trying to sow in longevity. We're trying to sow in the genius of our children. And when we do that, we will be rewarded. But it is going to take a fight. This is what that fight looks like. This is that fight right now on this marathon, and everybody going to stateoftheppl.com right now and making sure that they're signed up to receive any updates, that they are tapped into those local and national partners in their community, that you're sharing that link with the people in your group chats and in your family group chats so that they can join this marathon as well, and that you are calling your members of Congress to let them know that we do not accept being acceptable losses. We are divine, we are fully human, and we deserve to be treated as such.
Thank you so much, Brittany. I want to go to Reverend Cece if she'll will allow to just. We should have started with prayer. We got a long few days ahead of us, y'all.
We're gonna need a lot of prayer.
So I'm just like, Cece, I done sent
The
you.
Lord was wrapped up in all of that, twin. You ain't here.
Yes, he was too. Very, very wrapped up in it.
You know how that goes.
Listen, 2 or 3 are gathered here, so let's go to God.
I'm just saying, I appreciate the word. We're going to have a benediction, but we're going to keep going after said benediction. We're going to have an opening a little late, a little invocation. But I wanted to check with you, Cece, because I know you don't just pray, you also work, and you have been organizing your folks. So I'm hoping you'll pray and then tell us what some of the clergy is working on in the midst of all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be with y'all tonight. Let's pray. Eternal God, from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same, Lord, it's your name that's worthy to be praised. Your name is excellent. Your name is awesome, and your name is mighty. Despite what we see, despite what we feel, and despite what we experience, we know that excellence is your name and strong is your name. And so we come this evening, just gather, God, as your people, asking you to be in our midst, asking your spirit to lead and guide every aspect of this marathon, asking you to bless our leadership tonight, bless the equipment and the technology tonight, God. And we just ask that you would breathe on us a new breath of life, God. We need new strength, new power, new anointing to do the work, God, that you have created and called us to do before the foundations of the world. And God, we put all of our work into your hands, Lord, and we ask that you would receive it as work unto you and not as unto this world or to man, Lord. We ask tonight that you would just bless and keep, inform, inspire, lead, and guide. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. So, folks, yeah, I'm working with the Black Church PAC, of course, which is led by Pastor Mike McBride. I'm so happy for him and grateful for his leadership, and we are mobilizing clergy around the country, particularly in targeted districts where we want to make sure that our voices are heard in places that we feel like really matter. We know that this big, beautiful, big, ugly, big, dangerous bill is going to impact the most vulnerable, particularly children, particularly our seniors, our veterans, et cetera, et cetera. And we want to make sure that the clergy in those particular districts are educated, aware, and mobilized, organized to help their communities really lean in and engage with their congressional leaders. So we are looking to target 10 to 20, to hold 10 to 20 vigils over the next 48 hours or so. And we are steadily working toward that. We'll also be participating in some form of an activation on the Hill, probably on Wednesday. So stay tuned for more details about that. We also have a call. And I wonder if I can put that information in this chat, but we have a call for clergy and community leaders tonight at 8:30 to kind of talk about what's going on, educate folks, and mobilize people who have been reaching out. So we are really concerned about the people that we serve and the people that we love, and we're out here in these streets with you, Angela, and with the rest of everybody else. So glad to be here. Thank you all for all that you do.
Cece, I'm glad you announced the call because I told Pastor Mike that we wanted to have Joy. We go to Joy Show live at 7. We want Joy to go moonlight over there with the pastors at 8. And I said, is it public? He didn't say yes. So since you just said yes, we're going to be right on that call.
Listen, I don't know if I was supposed to say yes, but there it is.
There
So
it is.
any and everybody, show on up. I will send the link. I'll put it in this chat. I'm not really sure how to get it over on the YouTube channel, but
That's
I'll
okay. I
I'll
wouldn't
do
share
my
it on
due diligence
YouTube.
and put it here. Okay.
We'll share it on YouTube. I think you're good. We'll keep it protected here, but we'll make sure the
Okay.
right.
All right.
Our dear sister and queen, Melanie Campbell has joined us as well. And I know Mel didn't have a lot of time, so I want to make sure we get to Mel. She runs the Black Women Roundtable as well as the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. If y'all know anything about Atlanta, you know she runs Clark Atlanta University still. And so we are so grateful to have Mel with us. Mel, please drop some words of wisdom and some encouragement. How are we going to get through right now?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you, Angela. Thank you, everyone. I tell you, I was with Reverend Barber today in the heat of the day for these repairs of the breach action on Capitol Hill. And I tell you, it gave me, as hot as it was, it gave me motivation to say we go and to know as we stood there in front of the Supreme Court and then went into the Capitol and then knowing what's going on at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You know, says I would say the devil's busy, right? But God is not going to leave us wanting. He's just not. And I felt in my spirit the kind of energy that we are seeing. People are turning out from across this country. It took a minute for folks to understand what was happening, but people are tuned in. And so no matter what, there's already been victories, right? And even if this bill passes in some form, folks are not going to forget. Because when you do the worst, when you do to the least of these, God's children, you're not going to have no good luck. So we have to all just stay focused, keep doing what we need to do, keep fighting the fight. But like someone said, I just said, well, we're not going to also let the devil steal our joy. We're going to fight, but we're going to fight and we're going to win, right? And so, I say, God, why we have to go through this, right? But our ancestors have gone through a whole lot more. Nothing new under the sun. Racism in this country has always been there. Unfortunately, it looks like it'll always be there, but it does not always be the victor, right? And that's what it keeps me going. It was like I said, it was hot out there, and that's what we have to do. But guess what? We were able to go do what we needed to do, and we were able to leave there today. But our ancestors who were out here fighting, they had dogs put on them. They had folks shooting at them. They had all kinds of things. We're not faced with that, right? At least not yet, right? Now, the immigration thing is another thing, because that's the other piece of it. I think we have to really pay attention to what's in that bill. That is too many of our folks, I believe, don't realize that this is about us. This immigration fight is about Black people. If you're in South Florida, in Miami, people think I'm from Atlanta, but I'm from Florida. And I can tell you, my home folks are telling me folks are terrified down there. And we're not really seeing that. We hear what's going on in LA, but it's happening in Black communities as well, where they're yanking up our people. And so we have to be out here. We have to keep fighting. That's all. I want to be here in community with you and all of us, and just say, keep fighting. And dial that number, 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. Call your senators, right? And don't
I'm on
stop
Zoom now.
after the
Okay, now.
bill, whatever happened to the bill. We have to use it to continue to fight and just educate our people. And like you said, David, y'all are pulled together. We got our own black papers. We got our own agenda, and we're going to keep pushing that and know that God is not going to leave us wanting. Thank you, sister.
Thank you so much, Mel. A lot of us, I think, make assumptions when we come into spaces like this, that everybody knows what's going on. And there are two people on this rally call right now that I go to all the time, like, help me translate this. And that's Desiree Peter Campbell and Karen Finney, both who have been working diligently on how we frame these issues. I heard Senator Booker, I know y'all did too, when he kicked us off earlier, he said, this is going to be the largest transfer of wealth in history. And Karen, I know we went rounds about this earlier. Talk to the American people, y'all, about what this bill does in layperson terms. What does it mean for it to be the largest transfer of wealth in history? What does it mean when democracy is at stake? What does it mean when you can't get health care? What do these things mean for the person who lives in 98118 in Seattle, Washington, and doesn't know what any of that stuff means or how it applies to them?
Well, thanks, Angela, and so glad to be with everybody in community again. I was missing y'all from the tour, so here we are. We're called back together. I mean, there's a couple ways I think for us to think about this. Number one, when people are saying a transfer of wealth, I think what's important to understand, a lot of times we hear, oh, so-and-so is going to get a tax cut or so-and-so is going to get this benefit. But what I don't think people realize is the way this is structured. It is literally taking money out of our pockets, out of our communities to pay for, to go into the bank accounts of people like the Jeff Bezoses of the world. That's what we're talking about. That's why they're saying this is a redistribution or a transfer. Because remember all the things we heard this year about Doge and these cuts and those cuts, and that was going to pay for this. It didn't, because their math was not mathing. So basically, that's what this bill is designed to do. And I refuse to use their language. I call it a $1 billion hustle, because it's a scam. That's really what this is. And, part of the reason I think they're trying to push to get it done by July 4th, obviously we know Trump likes to make everything symbolic, but I think they're also trying to rush so we don't have time to know the details. So we don't have time to understand that this is about power and control, y'all. Really, that's what it comes back to. And we were playing with language today. They want us broke, sick, and hungry, because they think if they keep us desperate, and by the way, fighting each other, then we're not paying attention to what's going on at the top as they, continue to just deprive our communities of resources. And why would you take food away from children? And the other thing, Angela, I really want people to understand the things that are that are happening in this bill. That's on top of cuts and things they're already doing. So they done already made $1 million in cuts from USDA to food banks. So our food banks are already hurting. Then you say you're going to make these cuts to SNAP. Where are people going to go for food? For basic needs. We're talking about basic needs. And so, I think talking about that and helping people understand that this, I know a lot of times we say, oh, this is the most important thing, or this is the most dire. This is serious, y'all. And that's part of why we're doing this. But I also want to say, I love what Senator Booker said about how we got to hold on to our hope. But I also want to remind folks that part of what State of the People is about is relief and resources. And we are going to be talking about that, and we're going to be putting that forward. We want everybody to raise their voices, call their members of Congress, go to their field offices, all peaceful, of course. Please, one thing you can do right now, tell your story. Go and do a quick video with your phone, tell your story and post it, because we got to flood the zone. And we're going to do all those things. And we probably aren't going to be able to stop this bill. Maybe we'll be able to make it a little better than it was. We're at least slowing them down, which means more people have time to understand what's in it. And we're going to keep fighting this fight, but we're also going to make sure that we are helping provide and communicate and connect around resources and relief. So I want to make sure we talk about that too.
Thank you, Karen. Des, I want to come to you. I got to say, they said that Donald Trump wants to sign this bill on the 4th of July. But Frederick Douglass once asked, what to the slave is the 4th of July? I feel like we should be able to ask Donald Trump that same question. What to Donald Trump is the 4th of July? I think we should not give him his independence through this bill, since it's going to result in our oppression.
I fully agree. And I'm going to keep it brief, but keep it real, which is... I think there is so much power in narrative and so much power in people's stories and what they're going through right now. And so I just want to bring it down a notch. I'm in the street almost every day. I'm a mother. I'm a community member. I grew up in the projects. I don't live there anymore, but I still go and visit my family who's there. And so this is going to impact those folks who are the most vulnerable. This is going to impact children. I'm a mother of a 17-year-old. Some of her friends need and are on Medicare for health reasons, and they have disabilities. This is going to impact the most vulnerable children. I think folks need to pay attention. Sometimes we can talk in platitudes or big words, and we can lose the point. But I think we really have to focus and hone in on the fact that something like this is going to impact your life, how you manage your family, how you manage your money, how you get your food, and whether or not you can show up at the hospital for some health care. And so I think when we put it in that perspective, you realize that it impacts not just you, your neighbor, but it's 17 million folks who are going to be impacted in the country. And so if Donald Trump wants to sign this bill on July 4th, the question is, what kind of America or what kind of American is he? And what kind of America does he want this to be? That's the question that we have to ask him. But more importantly, we know that that's not the America that we want. The America that we know we want is an America that is steeped in community, that is steeped in purpose, that is steeped in love, and that is steeped in helping one another. That's who we are, right? We're not this group of folk who go to billion-dollar weddings. That ain't us. Right? We're the people who are actually struggling to try to figure out how to pay from Peter to pay Paul, how to get our children to school, how to get our children to their physicals, right? Normal folks, and how to make sure that they get what they need. So for me, this is about life. And this is about protecting our way of life and protecting the things that we have earned, that we deserve, and that are our rights. That's what this is about.
We started with with church, and I want to go back to church just for a moment. Y'all know I might be a little biased, but I'm definitely Church of God in Christ, and Bishop Talbert Swan is on with us. I think it's important, especially when we consider the evangelical and the Pentecostal tradition. You don't always see Pentecostal folks involved in the work, and this bishop is very different. He's always in the field, making things happen, making sure that he's raising his voice to do what's right. And so, Bishop, I would love for you to talk to your comrades, fellow clergy, those who may not be ready to join CC and Pastor Mike for this call at 8:30 tonight, where they talk about uniting the church and coming together. If you were given a clarion call to them right now about HR1 and the disaster, some of us are calling it Trump's BBL, right? It's his bad BBL. It's, some BBLs have killed some folks, and this is no different. So can you talk about the importance of the church, of other clergy leaning in right now?
Absolutely. First, thank you, Angela, and each of you all for being here tonight. We've got to continue first to lift our voices in prophetic protest against this big, bad, dangerous bill. I called it the bill from hell. And we've got to confront a sobering reality that the bill may pass, and that the cruelty of the legislation, gutting Medicaid, slashing food assistance, getting rid of DEI, and attacking the poor is not a possibility. It's a plan that's been in motion. And if it passes, millions are going to suffer. And that's why it's important that we speak to the church. That's why it's important that we can't just stop at advocacy. We've got to organize for action, for immediate, coordinated, spirit-led action. Basically, the church is the response that we've been praying for. And if we look at the history of the early church, it wasn't just a worshiping body. It was a mutual aid network. It fed the widows. It helped the sick. It redistributed wealth among the faithful. They didn't wait for approval from the government. They became the solution. The Church of God in Christ, which you mentioned, has a national footprint, as well as other organizations where we have millions of members. We got a rich tradition of service. And now we've got to embody that same Acts 2 spirit. And so if Trump's administration turns its back on the people, we've got to become the hands and the feet of Christ. We know that white evangelicals have lined up lock, stock, and barrel behind this administration, that they deal with a completely different Christ than we deal with. And so we've got to do more than just preach about our liberation, but we've got to practice it, not just teaching about justice, but we got to organize to help our people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bishop. I want to go. So I'm staying with the church for a moment. I don't know where David Johns went. Siobhan Arline Bradley is another one who always brings a powerful word. She leads NCNW and is just a tremendous gem to so many of us. And so I just want to come to you, sis, for a moment and talk about the importance that civil rights organizations play in this really critical moment. We have a call to action in our chat right now from Brittany to please direct folks to text POWER to 20707 so they can call their senators and learn more from the NAACP. We will be streaming some of their call live at 8 p.m. But Siobhan, the Black women are always carrying the bag too. So talk to us, sis. What do we got to do?
Listen, I'm on the West Coast right now, and I am feeling the heaviness of it because I have some stats. My team sent me some stats I want to share with your listeners because I don't think we understand. 1 in 5 enrollees in Medicaid are Black community members. This bill with these cuts will mean that 6 in 10 will have a gap in their coverage. That means 60% of Black families will have a gap in their coverage. So we're talking about basics. I think what's really happening, Angela, is that people don't know what this means, that Medicaid does not mean poor. We've got to dispel these myths. Medicaid means, in many cases, a senior who needs additional supplements for their nursing homes. That is going to hit our communities. It means children who are living with disabilities, children, families who are living with disabilities will not be able to access the medication. Full disclosure, we had a staff member who was living with a disability who could not access their medication. And this was even in the context of the tariff situation. They couldn't even get their medication. So now we're talking about tariffs on top of Medicaid cuts. We're literally seeing a gap in opportunity. Here's one I want to share too with SNAP, because this SNAP conversation has gotten particularly Black women in a corner of a conversation where there's an assumption that people are using the system. No, Black women most likely are working women that receive SNAP benefits. And I think that it is so important for us to dispel all of the cultural intentional myths that are happening with this bill. And I want to close out with this because the church, for me, has really been an interesting space in the conversation. I am convinced that we are in a moment where we are seeing not only demonic forces, but false prophets activating in pulpits for profit. And what profits them is to use propaganda that activates them against another base. So it's not Jesus for them. It's the bottom line. It's not Jesus for them. It's them aligning with a so-called demigod who's in the White House, who is activating in a way that is clearly not for the people. So for those of you that say you love God, then that means you need to read Matthew 25 again. For those of you that say you love God, that say you love Americans, I'm going to just dig into the American conversation. You cannot love God and not love the least of these. That is not even biblical. So I think it's intentional for us to talk about not only Black women, but Black families, and to understand that there are working people who don't make enough money, but make too much to get the coverage that they need. This is the bill that will harm them and hurt them. And let me just tell you, I'm going to log in all night long. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I got meetings, but I'm not going to leave this place. NCNW is partnering with NAACP tonight on the call. My collegiate students who are even in summer school right now, Angela, are logging in. Y'all got babies watching us, and I'm telling you, we are doing the right thing tonight. So, state of the people, it's not just the state of the people. It's time to storm for the people. We're going to storm for the people. We're going to storm the capitals. We're going to storm anybody that comes against us. And we are a raging fire, prepared to do what it takes to save our community. And we will do it with God on our side. So I love y'all. And I promise you, we're going to be here front and center because this is righteous work. I love you, Angela. I love all my family on here. We on the right side of history, y'all. This is God's work.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Reverend Siobhan Arline Bradley. I want to go to Dr. David Jermaine Johns. You all will know that Dr. Johns served as our editor-in-chief of the Black Papers Policy Initiative. One of the things he says the most, I'm sure it is up on that wall behind him somewhere, since we didn't get our lovely State of the People Marathon backdrops done on time. Sorry, y'all. We threw this together in a matter of hours. Shout out to Holly Holiday, Lolo Smith, Vince Evans, Karen Finney, David Johns, Brittany Packnett Cunningham, Holly Weeks, everybody I didn't name yet. I'm going to come to y'all later. Now, here's the point.
Angela Rye.
No, I'm fine. I'm good.
No, you helped too. I'm just saying.
Thank you. I want to come to you, David, because you always say, and for as long as I can remember, we've been friends forever, teach the babies. Teaching the babies presumes that the babies have somewhere to lay their head at night. It presumes that the babies are fed. It presumes that the babies are well, because if those three things are not in order, you cannot expect the babies to learn what you teach. And so on the most fundamental levels, right, when you consider the reason why you jumped in with both feet to do the Black Papers Policy Initiative, it was to ensure that our basic needs and demands are met. This is the most reasonable service, right? And you got the best and the brightest. When they were telling us that we didn't earn it, DEI, you got the best and brightest minds who happen to be Black to pull resources to come together to do over 700 pages of policy and demands and requirements and requests for the community. So I want you to go there. I didn't mean to filibuster you, but the Spirit led me. So I just want you to weigh in on why it's so important for us to have our own policy ideas, to be able to give back to the babies and whatever else You
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to?
yeah. No, this is good. And I want us, if nothing else, I want us all to stop apologizing for showing up and being vessels and saying the things and doing the work that needs to be done, because that's why we're all here having this conversation with the congregation. You evoked something that anybody who knows me knows about me, which is my unapologetic defense of our babies. And I believe it was Senator Booker who kicked us off by quoting Uncle Jimmy James Baldwin, and I'll do the same. Acknowledging the lessons that we're teaching our babies, as so many adults have a civics lesson for the first time. And what Uncle Jimmy said is, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. And so I want us all to be very aware of the reality, which is that while so many of our babies who will be intimately impacted by the decisions that political bullies are making as a trade-off, their safety, their security, their sanity, for cheap political, actually really costly, let me be precise in using my language, very costly political wins for a few, our babies are watching and listening and feeling and will forever be changed by what they're witnessing. And my hope is that those of us, the caring and concerned adults who are responsible for the learning and development of all of our babies, those of us who have been called to do this work formally as educators, shout out to all of us, and those of us who haven't, the aunts, the uncles, the gunkles, the godparents, that each of us understand this, and if nothing else, we hold energy and space to have conversations with young people. Let's not assume, if we're going to assume anything, let's assume that they are hyper aware of what's going on, and let's have conversations with them about this reality. I want to reference the Black Papers Project specifically so that people can appreciate how they are both blueprints for how our communities have survived fascist, totalitarian takeovers heretofore, and I hope serve as a source of inspiration for us to work better together. And so to the overarching point about the attacks on our ability to be well, the lead authors of the Health Equity Black Paper write the following. Today, health inequities and disparities leave Black people living 12 years shorter than white Americans. Our average life expectancy is 72.8 years, compared to white folks who live on average 84.5 years. In addition to the human health toll, human inequities cost our nation $1.24 trillion annually. So while we are going to be extracted in terms of the services that so many of our communities rely upon, billionaires are going to make more money and we're going to owe more for generations to come. Recent policy changes before this big disastrous billion-dollar bill threatened to worsen existing inequities and disparities, specifically cutting Medicaid, we know will affect over 13 million Black people, reducing reimbursements and spending, which will harm up to 5.5 million Black people specifically. That's just the introduction to the Health Equity Black Paper. I heard Sister Siobhan Arline Bradley, if I'm not mistaken, reference immigration. The lead authors of our Immigration Black Paper write the following. The criminalization of Black migrants represents one of the most urgent yet overlooked civil rights crises in America today. As immigration becomes increasingly weaponized through policy, Black migrants face a double burden. We are targeted by both anti-immigration legislation and deeply embedded anti-Black racism that permeates American institutions. This Black paper examines the challenge facing the 5 million Black immigrants in the United States, the communities they are part of and contribute to, and the intersecting oppositions that shape their experiences. One of the last things they say in the introduction is that this paper exists to dispel the myth that immigration only affects Latino, Latinx, or Latinx folks. We need to work woke. We need to leverage tools like intersectionality, a centuries-old indigenous practice as a way of us thinking about how power is wielded and how we can shift things. And there are more than now 35, that's the new count, there are 35 Black papers. There are so many people who were affected by hearing about and engaging with our Black papers on the tour that a couple of folks said, hey, I got something to add to the mix. So we will have 35 Black papers on a range of policy topics, including many that'll be impacted by this bill or whatever version of it is passed. but also in our Black papers are reminders of the strategies that we can and should be employing to ensure that our people have access to care no matter where they live and how much money they have, that our babies have access to learning and development opportunities no matter what the schools or the school board says, right? This is about us reclaiming African ways of being and pouring into one another so we can all get closer to freedom in the key of Fannie Lou Hamer. So the last thing I'll say is shout out to everyone who has touched the Black Papers Project, Karena, Caitlin, Avani, and the team. In particular, shout out to all of the Black Paper authors. I see so many of them on the screen right now. And if there's something that's missing or a contribution that you uniquely can make, holler at us. We definitely want to include it because this project is for us, by us.
And that's at stateoftheppl.com/Black Papers. And it's my great honor now to turn it over to one of our Black Papers authors. I call him the king of reparations. He gets mad, but y'all call me chief of staff to Black folks. So y'all just got to deal with it. I hope he can hear me because he is outside good of the United States Capitol where it's all going down, the votorama in the Senate. Reverend Mark Thompson also authored our DC statehood bill. Shamefully, it's the same kind of approach that was taken in 1972 in Gary, Indiana for the National Black Political Convention. In their agenda, they also addressed DC statehood. When the Congressional Black Caucus met with Richard Nixon in 1971 with 61 recommendations for what would help advance Black America, DC statehood was one of them. So Reverend Mark Thompson is standing in Washington, D.C., where there is still no statehood and our lives are on the chopping block at the United States Capitol in the United States Senate. Reverend Mark Thompson, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? Where are the people at? What's going on?
Hey, everybody. Good to see everyone tonight and glad we're doing yet another marathon. You know, where we are at this moment, inside is something called vote-around. And so this is when feminists will go, so that they will take a vote and then it will go back to the House. Now, you mentioned DC statehood. I commend Dr. David Johns and everyone who's worked on the Black Papers. They make DC statehood very practical for everyone to understand. If DC is a state, that's 2 more senators, more than likely Democratic. You have 2 more Democratic votes. That makes a whole big difference in what's going on in any respect, any bill, any deliberation. So be clear, that's one of the other reasons there's resistance to DC statehood. That's just something else that we're fighting for. Vincent Evans is here, and I'm going to ask him to come on camera too. But apparently, see, we don't even know if this is going to pass the Senate yet. That's not a done deal. The House is least done. It's being reported in the past half an hour. The Senate bill is on the floor. The Senate is not going to change its bill. Mike Johnson is still reaching out, the no good Speaker of the House, still reaching out to have the Senate come closer to matching the House bill. Well, you might ask, why is he doing that? Because I think he knows he may not have enough votes in the House. So maybe, quite likely, what we are doing is working. When I say we, I mean the collective we, in the sense that you've got people who we're urging and people all over the country calling their senators, raising concerns, because this is going to affect everyone, not just Black folk, but
Mark just went out briefly.
Very, very important. I hope I didn't lose y'all. This is very, very important to get this done. Vince, come on and tell everybody what you. Vince is the executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus, and from your perspective, we that's Joy calling me now. When Joy Reed is trying to call me while I'm on air.
I know.
Joy Reed is trying to call in.
Reverend
Mark is absolutely right, everybody. We are in the throes of this. What he has just read out to you, we are here at the Capitol. We are seeing United States senators enter in and out of the building in real time as this bill and coming through. We're going to stay here throughout the night to try to bring some sense to this. The reality is, look, they are trying to pass this bill. Karen Finney talked about this just a little while ago. One of the largest heists if you will. I don't know what else to call it, of wealth in this country. This is a hustle. It's a scam. That is what's going on in the United States Capitol right now. We are live because we got to hold people accountable. Reverend Barber and leaders from across the country were here earlier today. There are more people that will be here
There were arrests today. It was civil disobedience today.
Absolutely.
And caskets were laid out in the streets. So noise is being made. And you know, Reverend Barber has a very diverse following. So people need to understand it's not, you know, it's not just immigrants. It's immigrants and black folk. It's not just immigrant and black folks who are citizens. It is white folk. Because still, you know, Siobhan said 1 in 5, Melanie. Well, who are the other 4?
That's right.
So people need to understand that, you know, when you buy into racism and white supremacy, you forget these things affect you. And I have to paraphrase what the LBJ said. The lowest white man that the black man is coming from, of course, I'm paraphrasing, then you can pick his pocket and he won't even know it. I'll get the exact quote later next time we come on. But that is what is happening here with this bill, big, beautiful bill. That's what Trump is. He does not care about the very people who helped to put him in office. So we're here. We're going to be jumping back in through the night.
The people of ill will and the people of goodwill are battling it out tonight. And we, all of us here at State of the People, everybody that's on the screen that's already talked, and folks listening around the country, we're the people of goodwill. So we gotta do our job right now in this moment. So we'll be here.
And yes, Angela is our name she calls me, Mama Bear, work mother. Some folks have work wives. I've been told I have one, but she's work mother. So yeah, that's who she is.
And Angela, we got the Congressional Black Caucus. They are making their way back to Washington tonight. And in the morning, folks are coming back because this vote, like you said, will now move to the House. And folks are rallying to do everything they can over the next 24, 48 hours.
Hey, Brittany.
Okay. Now, Mark, for the next segment, you're going to have to put your phone on Do Not Disturb and keep your finger out the lens, okay?
Well, no, I put it on Do Not Disturb. I don't know what happened.
Get your finger out the lens.
And you see what finger it is, too.
I mean, come on.
What do you say?
And he just did it right like you said not to.
He's still doing it. That finger is still in the screen.
It's frozen. He literally, okay, he's good now.
There we go. We're going back to y'all.
You know what? Here's the good news. He wasn't giving us the bird. He was giving the bill the bird because pastors wouldn't do that ordinarily.
I was trying to fix the phone.
I know. We was trying to save you, but we're going to let you go ahead and hang
Holly
out.
trying to call me for something.
You don't want to be saved.
He don't want to be saved. He want to be saved by Jesus, not by us. Okay. Now they sideways. So anyway, the thing is, y'all, this is a lot going on. We are going to be joined just briefly in a couple of minutes here by our good sister and friend. Mark is really doing some old man stuff right now. Joy Reid, who has a new show, The Joy Reid Show. It is a digital platform. Many of you all recognize and know her from her MSNBC days, but Joy has gone on to do amazing, amazing things. And has launched this amazing show. So she has dedicated her full hour to this bill, to HR 1. Some are calling it Trump's BBL. Some are calling it a disgusting, detrimental, dangerous bill. Karen and Vincent told y'all they scamming us, they hustling us. We know what time it is. We know the game and we won't be played. So all of that is going down in the next couple of minutes here. On the other side of that, we are going to ask you if you're going to answer the call. We're going to go in with our brothers and sisters and siblings to the NAACP, to the clergy call, to the young folks. All of them are doing their work. They've all picked up their mantle. They're all doing their parts. What will you do? Will you call your member of Congress? When Cory Booker joined us just moments ago, he said there are at least two senators who are on the fence. Will you call them? 202-224-3121. If they have their phones on D&D, like Pastor Mark should have his phone, tweet them. If you still use that, what do they call it? X them, Instagram them, post a video like Booker Squared. I forgot to tell her to come on. Y'all tell her to come on here. Whatever you can do to reach them, you can go up there. Y'all can go around there, knock on their doors to their office, reach them any way you know how. But most importantly, do your part. Tell your friends, to your family, tell your frenemies that we are on all night. We gonna go on till the break of dawn and even longer than that. Last time we did 24 hours. This time is nonstop until we get our needs met. We will not quit. So just in a moment, we'll be joined by our good sister, Joy Reed. We'll turn it over to her, and we thank y'all so much. Stick with us. Now, can we see this from here? Holly, give us some marching orders.
I just found another statistic if we need something to talk about.
We'll talk about it just in case. They can run that thing back.
All right, because I love talking about Wharton because Trump got something up as what about Wharton. So look, the Penn-Wharton budget model, they looked at what is the impact? Why does it matter when we say it's going to add $3 trillion to the debt? Well, here's what they found within their study. If you are low income, a child born today is going to pay $14,000 over their lifetime just for what's going to happen when this bill, who knows what other kind of debt gets put on it. But if you're over 70 and you're a high income earner, you're going to gain $120,000. So it's another example. It's taking away from our young people. It's giving to, because the majority of the people who are going to benefit from this bill, I'm just going to tell you, a lot of them are older. So they're going to gain about 120K. You're going to be losing money. So just remember, when we talk about this shift of generational wealth, this shift of wealth, all these phrases we're using, we're literally talking about out of one pocket and into another.
Which means we're talking about theft, right, Karen?
Amen, sister. That's why I said it's a hustle. It is a hustle.
Scam artists coming to scam us out of our money. We are talking about somebody reaching their hand into our pocket and taking what belongs to us, taking food off of our table, right? Out of the refrigerator, taking food out of our children's mouths. We're talking about taking healthcare out of people's hands. Like, it is that literal. And I think it's critical to your point, Karen, that people really understand this. These are thugs. I don't care who elected them. I don't care what their title is. I don't care if somebody calls them senator, congressperson. These are thugs. And they want to spend a whole lot of time talking about the supposed criminality of our people. Meanwhile, they're the ones robbing us hand over fist.
That's right.
That's what's actually going on right now. So these billionaires are out here making it look like they're in charge when we really have the power.
That's right. And that's part of you've said this before, that's part of the scheme, right?
Joy is on. This is good material, so y'all save it for about an hour. Okay, so we have a break for about an hour, and then she's gonna be moonlighting into these different Zooms. Folks can definitely come on for that. And then at 9, I would just be ready to go just in case, 9 Eastern.
You're saying you need us back at 9?
David, can you get some of these Black paper authors to come? And then I saw JoJo was on, but she never turned her camera on. I really wanted JoJo to talk about the veterans piece. And then Jasmine, I'm sorry, honey, I don't have anything for you. Were you supposed to speak and we didn't call on you? No, okay. You're listening. Okay. Well, if you're not going to speak, keep your camera off because everybody can see you. So I just want to make sure we know that. I meant to tell Bishop that too, because he's on there.